just finished watching Euphoria, which is a HBO sort of coming-of-age film? What am I just said TV series, starring Zendaya, produced by Drake, I believe. It's sort of like, if you ever saw Skins, which was a big teen film. I need to stop. I just got films on my mind. It wasn't a teen film at all. It was a TV series on Channel 4, E4, whatever, way back when, about teens at uni in the UK doing drugs. It's pretty much just like the American version of that. It's basically if Skins was better acted, better shot, directed, written, it just had style. And it may sound like I'm shitting on Skins for that. I kind of am. A lot of Skins isn't very good, but originally it kind of has that British charm to it, that sort of Train Spotting feel where it's like, yeah, this is very low budget filmmaking, but fine. Although obviously Train Spotting is one of the best British films ever made, and Skins is Skins. Anyway, this is like an American version of Skins, and I really ruddy liked it. I thought it was cracking. It was really good. It came out a few months back before in the States, so I'd seen loads of reactions to it, and I was like, when is it going to... And they weren't announcing when it's going to come out in the UK, and then they did, and it came out, and I watched it. But for that 2 months, I was like, oh man, this looks like it's going to be right up my street. It's made by Sam Levinson. If you don't know, he's a director behind Assassination Nation, which was one of the biggest surprises from the film festival last year. It was either last year or 2017. Cannot remember for the life of me. I think it was last year. But my memory is absolute hot trash. And he did a film called Assassination Nation, which looked like, from the trailers, complete trash, and ended up being one of my favourites. Not one of my favourites of the year, but, you know, one of the biggest surprises and one of my favourites from the festival, just sheerly because it was like, I did not expect to like this as much as I did. But yeah, this is his TV series, and basically just follows a drug addict who's a teenager as she is coping with, I guess, high school life, whilst also dealing with family stress and friendship stresses, whilst also having a drug problem. And it's kind of, I mean, right from the get-go, this one is... It doesn't shy away from showing a lot of penis and a lot of drug use and some sex. It's all over it. So if you're someone that watches a TV series and is like, oh, skip through the sex scenes, don't bother watching this show. You'll only end up watching about 10 minutes of it, and the plot won't make any sense to you. But I'm not one of those people, so I watched all 10 episodes. 9 episodes, and it was cracking. Took a little bit to get going because at first it's a very stylish show, you know, all about those neon colours and dimly lit rooms and glittery makeup and all that stuff. Very, very stylish, which absolutely works and is one of the best things about it. Its look and its style is amazing. But at first you're sort of like, these are meant to be teenagers, right? No teenager ever, or at least no teenagers, plural, have been this stylish, or no, this is not high school for anyone, right? No one's relating like, I remember that night at high school when we all covered our faces in glitter, took every drug under the sun, fucked each other, and it was all... Or maybe you are. Maybe I just had a very different experience to most people. I'm thinking, actually, as I say it, probably that, isn't it? But still, it takes a little bit to be like, this is not a normal high school, is it? It's very stylized. But it really, really works. Really liked it. It also takes a little bit for me to get into Zendaya's character. Not that when it started I was like, oh, she's shit, but kind of. I'm just going to go out and say I've not been the biggest fan of everything Zendaya's done so far. I really liked her in the first Spider-Man film because her character just seemed good. She was doing... It wasn't amazing, but she was good. Wasn't a fan of her in Spider-Man Far From Home, just because it just felt like her character was... So maybe it's her character's fault and not her, but the character was very much like, oh, I'm an angsty teen. Oh, this is a word that I'm going to take because people don't know what it means. Yeah, fine. I've seen this only in every fucking film ever. Nothing new. And her performance wasn't particularly enlightening in that. And also, let's not forget she was in The Greatest Showman, which still baffles me to this day that it did as well as it did, because that film is just fucking dire. So yeah, she's not really blown me away yet. So I started this show and I was like, oh, it seems a little bit like it could fall into the whole angsty Zendaya trap, which seems to be her type. What is it? What's the word? Typecast. There you go. That was quick. Usually it takes me a lot longer and I've got to search it on my phone, but not today, motherfucker. Yeah, I was a little bit worried that it might be quite typecast, but actually she really comes into her own, and she gives a fucking incredible. She's amazing. I mean, there are multiple points in pretty much all episodes of this one where I was genuinely thinking, man, she's acting and she's doing a good job. She's acting the shit out of these scenes, and I can dig it. So Zendaya has done a full sort of 180 on me, and I'm now on the Zendaya train. I got on at a late stop, but please let me find a seat. Oh, not one? I guess I'll fucking stand then. Fucking typical, huh? So yeah, she's really great in it. The style is amazing. The direction is good. My favourite thing about Sam Levinson's direction, and it's a small thing, but I love that it's there throughout this whole thing, and it was very present in his first film, Assassination Nation. The dude moves the camera incredibly well, incredibly imaginatively. So all of this, I mean, also in the episodes that he didn't direct, but mainly in the ones that he did direct, you'll be upstairs. Wow, before you know it, the camera's downstairs. How did he get there? I don't know. It's almost as if if Harry Potter spells were real, this motherfucker is Wingardium Leviosa-ing the shit out of that camera. It's just floating around. You get some crazy stuff in there, and it's just exciting to watch. I guess it's sort of like the main thing that you get from this show, that I got from Euphoria, the main thing I love so much is the style and the direction of it. And it really sort of takes something which could have been a very sort of by-the-books teen drama into something a little bit more, and it just adds something to it, which I think works really well. So honestly, from the first episode, I was like, yep, I'm in, and I didn't want to stop watching it. Fortunately, I had to, because that's just life, and I can't just watch it solidly overnight because work exists. But if I could have, you better believe I would have. I was fully in on this show. I loved it. I thought it was great. One of my favourite series of the year. In typical HBO fashion, they don't really shy away from saying, doing, or showing anything, and I think that works really well, and it's refreshing to see that. And the whole cast is great, direction is great, style is great, look is great, the soundtrack as well. I mean, the soundtrack of this thing is it's ram-packed with songs which are it's sort of like how it was with the Black Panther soundtrack, right? Where I don't. Honestly, in everyday life, I do not listen to that style of music. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it, and every now and then I'll dip in and be like, great. But when a soundtrack like that comes out with Black Panther, I listen to that shit solidly. I was like, damn, this is. You'd think I was a diehard fucking fan of all of that scene, but I'm not. But it was cracking. It's sort of like that with Euphoria. I mean, it's a little bit different because it's got a crazy amalgamation of different genres in there, which all work wonderfully when they're on the show. But really, on the whole, it's not a lot of music that I listen to, but I enjoyed it, and I am happily listening to it on Spotify now. So, cracking soundtrack, just sort of like a cherry on the top of this one. And I just like the story of this one. I like the way it goes. I like the way that it sort of takes directions you don't expect it to, because a lot of the sort of relationships between characters we've seen before, and you're almost sort of programmed at this point. When you see it, you're like, oh, okay, it's going to go this way, this way, this way. And it kind of doesn't. And I like that. I mean, in many ways, there are certain elements that do go how you'd expect it to go, which I don't think is a problem with the show. I think it works and it does it effectively. But yeah, on the whole, it's kind of did a good job of subverting expectations, and I dig that shit. I'm always a fan of a little bit of subversion. Always cleanses the palate. What am I saying? I don't know. Who knows? So yeah, Euphoria, I dig it. I strongly recommend it for anyone that is on the lookout for a new show, wants to watch it, and likes sort of, I guess, coming of age, teen stuff, teen angst, but do be aware, it's very graphic and fucked up shit does happen.